skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountain majesties above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
This photograph shows Danny Ginter, the president of the Coweta Falls SAR, along with our trio, Janet Durden, who's a member of the Coweta Falls DAR, Jan Hyatt, and me. And as you can see, Danny and other members of the chapter prepare for this service by dressing in full costume, playing drum and fife pieces for the attendees, and offering speeches about military service and sacrifice. Danny Ginter is the one there in the middle in front, and he is also as I just learned from our member Bill Harlan, he's also a strong supporter of Paz Amigos. So he's actively involved in one of our community missions. So it's a small world, and you run into good folks everywhere, and these are certainly among them. So welcome. We'll begin the service with the lighting of the chalice. The chalice symbolizes reason, tolerance, and freedom, and also justice, love, and compassion. Now let's affirm the 7 principles that sum up core values of Unitarian Universalism. Please read them aloud with me. Number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Number 2, justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Number 3, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Number 4, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. Number 5, the right of conscience and use of democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. Number 6, the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And number 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. Thank you. And now, join me with the Celebration of Life toast. It's unique to this fellowship and even more unique today because it's now a symbolic toast as we move toward reducing consumption of plastics and other items that can't be recycled. So we're celebrating this as a symbolic tribute to life. So with me, if you will lift your symbolic toast as I read the toast, and then I'll join together in the last line. We celebrate life with its beauty and its pain. We lift these cups in tribute to the achievements of human minds and hands, and in sensitivity to the frustrations of misfortune and heartache, not fixing blame or credit for the outcome of chance, sensing the risk, savoring the joy, and sharing it all. Knowing the certainty of death and remembering the value of each moment, we drink our toast of celebration to this time, to the future, to each other, to the throbbing of the earth and sea and sky with life. Together, we drink this toast in celebration of life. The offering this morning will now be given and received in the spirit of grateful fellowship. You can mail offerings to UUFC at P.O. Box 698, Fortson, 31908, or use PayPal. Hit send money and put in the recipient, UUFC@gmail.com. Whittaker Locke is out of town, so Thomas Trinh is filling in as our musician this morning. However, Whittaker isn't forgetting us. He recorded his Largo theme from New World Symphony by Antonin Dvorak to accompany Thomas, who will play the French horn.
Just a few words while I'm getting set up. We're really ready. So this is actually the English horn, often confused with the French horn. Two different nationalities. Neither instrument was made in the nationality it was named after. So this is actually a French instrument. What we know as French horns are actually English instruments. We chose this piece today, as you heard, Largo from the Ninth Symphony, Dvorak's Ninth Symphony. But the other name for it, as popularized in American culture, is a hymn tune, Going Home. So I thought it would be very appropriate for this Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you so much, Thomas, and to Whittaker on the road somewhere. We really appreciate you as well. And now our speaker this morning is well known to most of us. He's a retired veteran, lawyer, community volunteer, and musician, currently a musician, John Nix. And we're grateful to have John and his wife, Chris, who are longtime members of our fellowship here. They have two grown children, Heidi and Andy, whom we've met. John was born in Walterboro, South Carolina, educated at Furman and Tulane and Troy State University. He served in the Army JAG Corps from 1969 to 1989, including tours in Vietnam, Germany, and then he retired as a lieutenant colonel. He now enjoys reading, especially to elementary school kids with the Kiwanis Club, Toastmasters, Kiwanis, playing tennis, regularly and playing trombone with the Columbus Community Orchestra. And if you have a chance to attend one of these concerts, please do it. It is so much fun. You'll recognize a lot of people in the audience and in the orchestra, and you'll really have a good time, guaranteed. Now, the reading today is by Danielle Neal. She'll offer a reading just before John's talk, and he requested it so that he could lead into his talk from her poem. So from Puxatawney, Pennsylvania.
So, okay, we're good now? Yeah?
Yeah, we're good now.
Great. So John Nix picked this poem specifically. It's called Flanders Fields. It's a war poem written during the First World War by Canadian physician, Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae. As a result of its immediate popularity, parts of the poem were often used in efforts to and appeals to recruit soldiers and raise money selling war bonds. Its references to the red poppies that grew over the graves of fallen soldiers resulted in the remembrance poppy becoming one of the world's most recognized memorial symbols for soldiers who have died in conflict. And now in Flanders Fields. In Flanders Fields, the poppies blow between the crosses row on row that mark our place. And in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields. Thank you for sharing this with me. Happy Memorial Day.
Thank you, Danielle.
Memorial Day is a time, of course, to remember. A time to remember all those men and women who have sacrificed their lives in defending our country over the last 245 years. Ranges all the way from the Revolutionary War through Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. We try as best we can to relate our programs, don't we, to one of our 7 principles. I think my talk today certainly relates to our principle number 1, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. On this Memorial Day, I hope that we'll think of all those men and women who've died in service of our country. Not just like statistics, but rather as individuals whose lives were cut short because they gave up their lives for a greater cause. Memorial Day is, of course, tomorrow, May 31st. It's always the last Monday in May, so the actual date varies a little bit from year to year. It's been a national holiday since 1971. Memorial Day is to be distinguished from Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a day to honor all veterans. Veterans are considered to be service members who have received an honorable discharge or who are eligible for an honorable discharge. Veterans Day is always celebrated on November 11th, no matter what day of the week that it falls on. And that relates back to its being a descendant of Armistice Day, which was the day when World War I ended. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So I don't think it's too likely that they're gonna change that date. But both Memorial Day and Veterans Day are, of course, federal holidays. What's the origin of Memorial Day? Would you be surprised that Memorial Day may have originated in Columbus, Georgia? Mary Ann Williams, the secretary of the Ladies Memorial Association, founded during the winter of 1866, wrote a letter to more than 24 newspapers all across the South, I suppose, because she was urging that a day be set aside to wreath the graves of our martyred dead with flowers. And initially it was a day to honor the Confederate war dead, and it was scheduled for April 26, the day that General Johnston surrendered his army there was a big army still left in the Confederacy after Lee surrendered. But he had about 90,000 soldiers under his command, and he surrendered to General Sherman at Bennett Place, Durham, North Carolina. General Lee had surrendered to General Grant back in a couple of weeks early on April 9th. 3 years after the end of the war, General John Logan, head of an organization of Union veterans called the Grand Army of the Republic, he declared Decoration Day should be observed on May 30th. And he picked that day because he thought flowers would be out by that time, of course, the end of May. And according to a book by two guys named Belware and Gardner, who really thoroughly researched Memorial Day, General Logan adopted a plan that, quote, the ladies of the South instituted. And it seemed that he was, from the context, that he was referring to Mary Ann Williams and Columbus, Georgia. But, I have to be honest with you, there are about 20 other towns in the United States that claim that they're the original Memorial Day. And I think at some point, the president declared that Waterloo, New York was a place where they had the first Memorial Day. But, we got to claim, we don't have to believe what they're saying. Well, what's the appropriate way to behave on Memorial Day? Many Americans, of course, observe Memorial Day by visiting cemeteries or memorials, holding family gatherings, and participating in parades. And you probably all not wish anybody a happy Memorial Day because it's not Christmas, it's not a day of glee. It's a sad occasion in many ways. Maybe a more appropriate comment might be, thank you to the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice, or let us remember those who courageously gave up their lives. I'm not sure how I'm going to work that in, but I'm sure you'll think of a way. We have some very impressive monuments in Washington, D.C. I wanted to remind you of them. Of course, there's Arlington National Cemetery. They expect over 135,000 visitors this weekend. Over 400,000 men and women have gravestones at Arlington. Very interesting, I think, that this land used to belong to Robert E. Lee. I feel like I'm invading somebody's privacy here, but the picture is available on the internet related to Arlington. And I think it reminds you that, out of all those thousands of tombstones that you see when you visit Arlington, there's, of course, a story behind every one of them. Their families, lovers, friends, and we need to be reminded of that. Of course, at the Arlington National Cemetery, if you ever visit there, you'll likely stop by to see the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. It's 100 years old this year. The first unknown soldier was from France on November 11th, 1921, I think is when they dedicated it. There's a writing on the tomb that says, "Here rests an honored soldier, known but to God." They also have unknowns from World War II and the Korean War, and they had one from Vietnam for a number of years. He was there for about 14 years, from 1984 until 1998. And then they discovered through DNA analysis who he really was. He was identified as an Air Force pilot, Lieutenant Michael Joseph Blassie, whose jet crashed in South Vietnam in 1972. And they removed his remains and gave them to his family, and he's now interred in a national cemetery in Missouri. Of course, the tomb is guarded 24 hours per day, no matter what the weather. I was most impressed when I went to Washington and did tours with the Marine Memorial. It's been around since 1954. There were 6 soldiers in this photograph on top of Mount Suribachi at Iwo Jima. It was a very terrible battle. And the Marines like to use this basically, I think, as a symbol of the Marine Corps. You see many reproductions of that memorial among the Marines. Marines, by the way, don't like being called soldiers. They're Marines. And of course, the Vietnam Memorial, which most of us are familiar with, it's been around since November 1982. I think John Hart mentioned there's a miniature version of this out at Fort Benning. It had a very controversial design to begin with. 200 feet long walls tapered from 8 inches to 10 feet. And the names of the service members are listed in chronological order according to the date of the casualty. This memorial is located northeast of the Lincoln Memorial, and it has over 3 million visitors every year. They had some really nice touches to this memorial when they put up a statue of the 3 soldiers who are standing apart, looking back at the memorial, and they represent a European American, an Afro-American, and a Latin American. There's also a nearby monument called the Vietnam Women's Memorial. Over 2,000 nurses served in Vietnam. They seem to be nurses. I think that's who they are. They're obviously taking care of a wounded soldier. And maybe one of them is looking up for the helicopter. I don't know. The Korean War Memorial. I guess if you have a Vietnam Memorial, you have to have a Korean War Memorial, right? So that came about afterward. It's been around since 1995. It's located southeast of the Lincoln Memorial on the opposite side of the Vietnam Memorial. And it's in the form of a triangle intersecting a circle with 2,500 photographic and archival images along the walls so you can see the whole story of the conflict. There are 19 stainless steel statues, and they represent a platoon on patrol in battle dress. And they have individual faces, and you can see they're looking around in anticipation. I don't believe I would want to tangle with them. They're all made out of steel, and they're at least 7 feet tall. So, well, but that's art. Yeah, the Korean War, you got to have World War II, right? Now, this one also was rather controversial. It's located on the mall, and it's between the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument. It's been there since 2004. That's when it was open. We had 16 million people served in the armed forces of the United States in World War II. 400,000 of them died. This monument consists of 56 pillars representing U.S. states and territories and a pair of small triumphal arches, one for the Atlantic and one for the Pacific Theater, surrounding an oval plaza and a mountain. I think the other was kind of a mock-up, but this is the real thing here. It's really great. There's another monument kind of under construction for World War I. The first phase of it has opened, but the other phase will not be finished until about 2024. They're incorporating, among other things, a statue to General Pershing, who was the leader of the American forces and during World War I. Why do you think we memorialize war deaths in particular? Certainly, we've just experienced a trauma to our nation as a result of the COVID virus. It has killed 603,000 persons. There may be a memorial to those folks one day, but it seems to me we think of these deaths differently than the way we think about war deaths. It may be in part that battle deaths are particularly poignant because they're mostly deaths of young men and women. They had their whole life ahead of them, and they sacrificed it for the good of the country. That was surely their concept. This is an idea suggested, of course, by the poem that Danielle read to us earlier, In Flanders Fields. No one knows the true impact on our society relating to the loss of these promising young people. There's, of course, no practical way to answer that question. Before I close, it was suggested that I play taps. Hopefully I'll have better luck with that one this time. That's a familiar tune. It's only 24 notes, and it's played at U.S. military funerals and memorials and as a kind of lights out signal to soldiers. And it goes all the way back to the American Civil War. In July 1862, General Butterfield and his brigade were camped at Harrison's Landing, Virginia. They were recuperating from the 7 days battle. The Rebs had put quite a licking on them. That was near Richmond. And General Butterworth, maybe he had extra time on his hands, I don't know, but he didn't like the existing bugle call. It wasn't perfect. And so he was working on it, trying to get the way he wanted. And after his bugler played his version, other units became interested in it. This 24-note tune, and it spread throughout the Army and even caught on with the Confederates. A short time later, it was played for the first time at a military funeral. It seems that a Union cannoneer was killed in action, and his commanding officer, John Tibble, decided that maybe a bugle call would be better than firing 3 rounds because the Rebs or the Confederates were just across the river, and they may think that war is starting again, that they're being attacked. And so he played the what we call taps. Why do they call it taps? What's tappy about it? Well, it seems that originally the lights out call was followed by 3 taps. Drum taps, of course. And after they came up with this bugle call, they didn't do the actual tapping anymore, but soldiers continued to call it taps. I call it taps, but I never knew why I called it taps until I did a little research here. Of course, when you have good tunes, somebody's always trying to add some words to it, right? And numerous attempts have been made to add words to taps, but I like this version. Day is done. Gone the sun, from the lake, from the hill, from the sky. All is well. Safely rest. God is nigh. So if you're able, please stand, face the flag, and place your hand over your heart, and I'll play taps.
Thank you, John. Remember that after the service, we will end the recorded part of this program and join each other off camera for a question and answer period. We extinguish the chalice that it might grow gently in our hearts. May it light your path as you leave this place.